Welcome to this lesson, ladies and gentlemen who are following Bachelor of Arts in English, external degree in University of C Jayawardenepura. Today my lesson is Mac Flecknoe. Mac Flecknoe. Many students drop this text believing that it's too difficult. No, very interesting. One of the salient traits of Augustan text is that they are not always interesting like other types of literature. You know what Augustan means. I don't want to explain it again and again. You may know. If someone doesn't know, I will explain. I'll give a brief introduction to that. Augustan means 18th century poetry and writing style of England. That means the subject matter of their poetry, fictions, and drama was heroism and satire, satire and humor. Now, they imitated the style of Roman writers lived during Augustus Caesar. So, here English writers also imitated the same style and they produced text with satire, humor, and heroism. Anyway, Mac Flecknoe is a satirical text. What is Mac? Mac means Latin, yes, sun. Latin term sun. Flecknoe means a term that the writer, John Dryden, Mac Flecknoe, was written by John Dryden, one of the leading satirists of England in Augustan time period. Flecknoe means a former poet. There was a poet called Richard Flecknoe, right? Richard Flecknoe was a former poet, late poet, right? Mac Flecknoe means, then Flecknoe means Richard Flecknoe, Mac in Latin son. Therefore, the title, the meaning of the title is son of Richard Flecknoe. Mac Flecknoe means son of Richard Flecknoe. John Dryden and some other poets ridiculed and satirized this Richard Flecknoe, saying he is a useless and meaningless and frustrated poet whose attempt is right meaningless. According to Augustan poets and some other metaphysical poets also, including Andrew Marvell, right? Richard Flecknoe wrote useless things, so that they nicknamed Richard Flecknoe as King Nonsense. Richard Flecknoe as King Nonsense, right? And his collection of writing was nicknamed Kingdom of Nonsense. Kingdom of Nonsense. Now you know, you may think, what am I telling now? Kingdom of Nonsense, right? That means like this. At that time in England, there was a contemporary poet. Now you may know that Mac Flecknoe means son of Flecknoe, son of Richard Flecknoe, right? Mac means son. That means Richard Flecknoe was called King Nonsense, and then Mac Flecknoe is the son of King Nonsense, right? I will tell like this. In contemporary England, there was a minor poet and a playwright called Thomas Shadwell. He was also a playwright. And also poet. Earlier, at the beginning, John Dryden and Thomas Shadwell lived with friendly terms. They didn't have any dispute. Later on, they fell away due to various reasons. They became angry with each other. One reason Thomas Shadwell embraced the religion Protestant religion. That time in England there were so many sects of Christian church, more than 300. One Protestant. And Dryden was Roman Catholic. Therefore, John Dryden and Thomas Shadwell became angry, fell away with each other. After that, other reason, in the same breath, in contemporary England, there was a huge political upheaval. The king was Charles II. King was Charles II. King Charles II married Catherine de Braganza. Catherine de Braganza, daughter of King George, King John in Portugal. Portugal King John's daughter. Portugal King John's daughter, Catherine de Braganza. Catherine de Braganza was barren and she couldn't produce an heir to the throne. Right? Therefore, Charles II had an illegitimate son called John of Monmouth. Right? He was also Duke. He was given a Duke of Monmouth. He proceeded with the struggle to capture the power against father. In that struggle, the country divided into two parts. I just want to say that. One part, King Charles II, other one, Duke of Monmouth. The poet got the side of king and Shadwell got the side of that illegitimate son, Duke of Monmouth, right? Therefore, there were problems between that, right? Now, the poem is this. John Dryden, writing this poem, Flecknoe, right, ridiculed, satirized, and condemned this contemporary minor playwright and poet Thomas Shadwell, right? Now you may understand. Thomas Shadwell is now Flecknoe. Flecknoe means son of Richard Flecknoe. Son of Richard Flecknoe means next heir, successor to the kingdom of nonsense. Richard Flecknoe's kingdom is nonsense. Now this man is his successor. But we should know that Thomas Shadwell and Richard Flecknoe were not father and son in real life. This is a fabricated story. Right? The poet begins with like this: all human things are subject to decay. Every man dies. And when fate summons, monarchs must obey. Even fate summons, when the fate is all right, even monarchs must obey, mean even monarchs die. Right? There is no undying man in the world. This Flecknoe found who, like Augustus Young, who'd called to empire and had governed long. Now, this old framed king, nonsense, Richard Flecknoe, when he was about to die, he was searching for a best son because he had many sons. Augustus Caesar had many women and many sons. Just like Augustus Caesar, the poet equates that to Caesar. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was looking for a best son to hand over his kingdom of Roman kingdom, just like this Flecknoe, Richard Flecknoe was also finding for a best son, and he found, Shadwell the best one. That he selected. Now he says, like Augustus Young, was called to empire and had governed long in prose and verse. Now actually, Richard Flecknoe wanted to find a better son to continue his right? What is called the empire. Empire mean prose and verse, right? Drama and poetry. Without dispute, through all the realms of nonsense absolute, because Richard Flecknoe wrote nonsense, this man also wrote nonsense. Age prince now flourishing in feast and blessed with issue of large increase. This age prince was flourishing, and he spent in his evening time, and he was blessed with issue of large increase. You mean children, large increase. Prince mean here, Richard Flecknoe, he had many children mean. In London town, England at that time, there were so many writers who wrote useless things. That's what the writer want to say. I think in a short video like this, you may not understand these things. In my classes, I will give full note and do these things. Worn out with business, did at length debate to settle succession of the state. He was debating to settle the state in his empire, and pouring with all of his sons was fit to reign wage immortal war with wit. Now, Richard Flecknoe wants a son to wage immortal war with wit, mean intelligence. Should only rule who must resemble me. Now, Richard Flecknoe found that only man who resembled him was Thomas Shadwell. Nature in dullness, because he was mature in dullness from tender years, because childhood is mature in dullness, means mature in uselessness. Shadwell alone of all my son is to stand confirmed in full stupidity. That Richard Flecknoe understood that Shadwell was the best son because he could stand with full stupidity. Alright, after that he writes like this, okay? And after that, because full text is too long, we can't tell. He tells that Haywood and Shirley were types of thee. He writes about other two writers in England, Haywood and Shirley. Haywood and Shirley also like Thomas Shadwell, right? Thou last great prophet of tautology. You are the last great prophet of tautology. Yes. Tautology means reincarnation or redundancy. Tautology means reincarnation or redundancy. In other words, rebirth. Right. You are the last prophet of tautology. You are the prophet who is teaching this tautology. Why that? Tautology means reincarnation. Thomas Shadwell did not create his own things. He copied from the existing resources, like Shakespeare. Shakespeare also copied the things from the existing resources. Therefore, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, he copied to English. That's why the poet blames like that. Tautology. Even duns of renown then they was sent before the prepared way. Like that. After that, another thing he says that my wobbling lute I Willem strung when to King John of Portugal I sang. Right? That means one time when King John of Portugal visited England, right? Visited England. This man, one time, King John of Portugal visited England. When he visited England, there was a party that with King Charles II and his father-in-law, King John of Portugal. The party was held on a ship. Normally, royal parties were held on ships, in the river Thames. On that occasion, John Dryden had an opportunity to play his musical instrument to entertain the king. He says that Thomas Shadwell didn't get that opportunity, right? He ridicules saying like that, and he refers to a Greek mythology. There was a Greek mythology of Arian, right? Greek mythology of Arian. Arian was a musician. One day, when he was traveling on a ship, he came to know that a gang of robbers were going to loot him and murder him. So, what he did was to play his violin and jump overboard the ship. One dolphin who was enthralled by the very sweet music of his instrument, right, kept him on back and took him to an island called Corinth. He says that if Thomas Shadwell have faced a such event, there are no dolphins, very little fishes, throng of fishes will be there. There is no one to, rescue him. Again, the poet says that the sounds that emerge from his word, poetry, and like that, equal to the sound that one can hear from fishing nets. At that time in London, some street there had been allocated for the purpose of fishing, urinating. He says the sounds that come from those places are equal to Shadwell's effect. And after that, that at that time there was a nickname to London called Augusta, Fair Augusta, right? That's why the poet says that Fair Augusta. And that time there stood of Yo, and Barbican it had. That time there had been a defensive wall called Barbican. Now he says Augusta and Barbican are not defensive places, but there are brothel houses now. You know, brothel houses are harlot streets. Brothel houses with young men and women. Yes, youth generation playing lewd scenes. They are playing lewd scenes while mother strumpets keep. Mother strumpets. Strumpet is another word for harlot. Right? That means children are playing lewd scenes. Mother strumpets are looking at and remain silent. That means the poet lays blames on Shadwell's mother, saying she is also a prostitute. Like that, the poet is weak. The poet goes to another story, that drama, the poet, that means Shadwell, stage, that is Sight. Shadwell staged a drama called Sight. He ridiculed this drama saying like that. According to Sight, that drama is like this. Venus is the goddess of love, according to Greek mythology, theology, right? Venus is the goddess of love, and sun is Cupid. Cupid is the god that too has a bow and his arrows to shoot at young men. I know that word, god of love. There was a girl called Psyche in the human world. Psyche is the most beautiful girl in the world. The goddess Venus is so angry with her because she is so beautiful. Therefore, goddess Venus wants Psyche to marry the ugliest man in the world. So one day, Venus asked his son Cupid, like this, son, I want your great help. Please go to the human world and shoot one of your arrows at that girl, Psyche, and next the same arrow to the ugliest man in the world. Psyche knows that is bad, but he can't go against mother's advice. And one time, on one night, on the sly, in the dark, he entered the Psyche's chamber and shot one of his arrows at her. In the darkness, when he was ready to return, the same arrow scratched him. Then what happened? He fell in love with the girl. Then now Cupid, god of love, fell in love with Psyche. Mother's plan went upset, totally upset. They married and they lived in a hut in the jungle. But he never came home in daytime. He never comes home in daytime. And he put a condition to his wife, that means Said, on any account you can't see me in the daytime. I come home at night only. You can't. You are extremely prohibited to light a candle at night. She anyway likes to see the face of her husband, and she told this story to her sisters. Sisters advised that, Akka, your husband is not a human. Your husband is a giant serpent. Therefore, he asks you not to light a candle. One night, suddenly light a lamp in one hand and keep a sharp knife in other hand. If it is a serpent, cut into two. One night, husband comes home and suddenly she lights one hand lamp and ready to cut him. Suddenly she sees Cupid. Right? She was so confused. And she went on hugging Cupid, went on hugging and hugging, yes, and embracing. Both lamp and knife dropped down. After that, what happened? Cupid was angry. Cupid left that hut and went to jungle. Now he loved the wife. He was wandering in the jungle, and girl was also wandering in the jungle. In the meantime, Godfather Zeus heard this incident and sent some goddesses to bring Cupid to, not Cupid, this girl, Psyche, to heaven. After that, God gave her to drink ambrosia. Ambrosia is what gods consume. After that, she became a goddess. And then Cupid also brought to, not Cupid, yes, Cupid also brought to heaven, and both were married. After that, they spent time happily. That story of Cupid in Greek mythology, Shadwell translated into English, and he staged drama. Therefore, the poet condemns him, saying he's the last prophet of tautology. Like that, in this manner, throughout the poet, John Dryden ridicules, satirizes, and condemns his contemporary poet, playwright, and poet and playwright Thomas Shadwell. For more details, you can meet me later. Have a nice day. Goodbye.